On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, Jim Root of the Three Man Weave is joining me to do just a college basketball show. It hit me. I don't know. I woke up the other day and I was just like, we haven't done just a pure college basketball show on this show in a very long time. Doing NBA playoff talk and NBA draft talk and all sorts of like various. We touch on stuff in the offseason, certainly with Huggins and all that, but we haven't done a show where we're just like, let's just sit down and talk ball and let's talk college basketball. And Jim Root is one of the hosts of the Three Man Weave. If you don't know what the Three Man Weave is, they are a great college basketball podcast. They are so in depth and knowledgeable about every single team. It's crazy how much these guys know about all these players. And they're self-proclaimed nerds. We'll put it that way. They're nerds of college. They're the kind of guys that know what the numbers on KenPom mean. I subscribe to KenPom and I log on, and the only number I know what any of it means is just the number of the ranking, and that's like why I just refresh KenPom just to see like where's Ohio State on KenPom, and I'm like, oh, all right, cool, there you go, that's cool. We're 13th on KenPom, even though we're 500. We're 15-15, and the country says we're terrible, but for some reason KenPom loves us, so that's cool. But I don't know what it all means because I'm a moron. The Three Man Weave guys do, and they're incredible, and they're a great podcast to listen to in the college basketball season. But no, there's been a lot going on in the off season. I haven't really done a show where I've tried to hit it all and just try to condense and just do a pure college basketball show. So those of you that have been clamoring for it, and I hear you, I see you. I'm sorry that I'm not talking as much about college basketball as you wanted me to. Great news. Today I'm doing that with Jim Root of Three Man Weave. So enjoy. We talked about all sorts of stuff. We started on conference realignment as we probably should these days, Pac-12 dying and all that sort of thing. And then we got into all sorts of nonsense. Kentucky came up, and they had to. They always do in the offseason. But no, we spent a lot of time talking about some of these mid-major teams we're looking forward to, National Player of the Year race, what that looks like. Definitely an off-season show, but if you're into college basketball, you will definitely be into this show, and you will be into Jim Root, so please enjoy. All right, Jim Root is here, local Chicago guy. I said at the top of the show, but I'll say it again. Three Man Weave host, a great podcast, one of my favorite college basketball, but probably my favorite, honestly. If something's going on. Well, I mean, I don't even know. Like, I guess I'm in the infancy of this show to where I don't even know if my show even counts as a college basketball podcast anymore. I think it will once the season rolls around. But you guys are awesome, and I love listening. Why are only you here? I didn't reach out to Kai and Matt.
Probably this is a test.
Am I trying to drive a wedge between the three of you? Is that what
it's already there? We already hate each other, man. We've done enough of these that we're sick of each other, so it's fine. But yeah, no, we've talked about our shows in the past where it's like make the show you want. And ours is pretty nerdy. Yeah. Yours is way more entertaining for somebody that wants a little lighter take on it.
Well, yeah. Like if you're someone that listens to my show and you're like, I like Titus, he's interesting and I like hearing him talk, but goddamn it, he knows nothing. Then I have a show for you. It's Three Man Weave. Go listen to them because they know everything. I can do 4 hours on John Calipari in Kentucky and say nothing of substance.
We would die if we had to do that. Yeah. We would die. The show nothing would happen. It would be terrible.
But these guys know. They know the exact day that John Calipari started dyeing his hair, and that's something I don't know. That's how detailed they are.
And
they know
what the Kentucky offensive rating was after the hair dye and before the hair dye. That's what it is.
So it dawned on me, Jim, that I have not done a pure college basketball show really since UConn won the national championship. Which
did they? Forgot about that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They did. Yeah. People forget UConn won the national championship. But I've done a lot of NBA shows. I've done a lot of nonsense here and there, and I was like, I need to have someone on to just recap where we're at in college basketball. Football is coming around the corner. I think everyone's going to shift their attention there. So while we still have like this, we're still sort of in this calendar or this part of the sports calendar where there's quote unquote not a lot going on. I wanted to do like a college basketball offseason spectacular. So that's what you're here for. And we're gonna talk about all of it, which like I think right now as we sit here on Wednesday, August 2nd at 3 p.m. Central Time, it feels like the big stories are all realignment.
Yeah, but you covered that already. You don't want to talk about that with me. I covered that with
Nicole, but we didn't cover it through like a basketball lens. So like I guess like how plugged in, how much do you care about this and how much, because I was sort of talking to Nicole about it that like I made that point to her that it's like weird for basketball guys to be along for the ride because we're kind of, like if you're someone who's like a fan of women's tennis, I don't mean to put down women's tennis. Women's tennis is awesome. I watch it all the time, obviously. But it's not like obviously driving a ton of money for these schools. So like if you're someone who's like a fan of collegiate women's tennis, there's like a certain reality that goes into this where you're like, I know we have no say, we have no seat at the table with any of these discussions. That's the weird part for men's basketball to me is like we as a collective should have a seat at the table.
Yes.
Because we do make a ton of money because March Madness is such a big fucking deal to everybody. And yet somehow, because it's not the biggest deal, all the basketball people are told to shut up and move over there, and then you're just kind of along for the ride. So like what is your attitude towards realignment as a whole, just in terms of how you consume it? Are you like someone who's following the chess pieces, or are you just like, just tell me where you end up and I don't really give a damn?
I'm more the latter, where I will accept whatever you give me. I'm not always going to be thrilled about it. A couple of years back on our website, I wrote an article about how I wanted conferences to look, and it was all like maximum of 11 teams, so there'd be double round robins, and every team would have like travel partners. Like we're going to talk about Pac-12. I've always loved it for like the synergy of it and the symmetry of like the 2 Arizona schools, the 2 Washington schools, the 2 Oregons, and the Bay Area, and it made sense. And now nothing makes sense. The schedules don't matter at all. So like, I'm a betting man, betting on like preseason futures in conferences. You have no idea who has the easiest schedule. And that bothers me. Yeah,
that is. My dad, every time I try to talk to him about stuff like this, he just throws his hands up and he's like, ever since the Big Ten went to, because I'll ask him about like, like for example, he hates Purdue. Purdue won the Big Ten last year. So I'm like, Dad, how you feeling? Purdue won the Big Ten. And his answer has always been, not just last year, but every single year. He's like, the second they went away from like the true round robin, the Big Ten titles meant nothing. And he's like, that was the moment in time I'm out on ever since this imbalanced schedule shit came along. But that was another point I made, Nicole. What's funny about conference realignment is that all of us hate it. All of us are like, this is stupid where we're at. I hate where the future, where we're going. Why can't we go back to how it was? And here's the tricky part, Jim. All of us have a different point in time of when, of what it was back in the day.
You were joking about like the Big Ten being 11 teams, and like that was sacred to you.
That was back when it made sense, and that's the problem with realignment, and that's why like ultimately those of us that bitch about it, which is basically everybody. Basically, if you're not wearing a suit and tie and going to boardrooms at these conferences,
I mean that's like everything, right?
Everybody
if the money isn't flowing into your pocket, it's annoying.
Yeah, you're like this fucking sucks. But all of us are kind of hypocrites if we're being honest with ourselves, because like when Nebraska joined the Big Ten, I was like, that's kind of cool. That makes sense. They have corn, that checks out. Well, you're a Missouri guy, right?
I'm a Mizzou grad, and and this happened. We went to the SEC my grad school year, 5th year, and I wanted to be in the Big Ten because I grew up in Wisconsin, Big Ten country. Yeah. My friends went to Big Ten schools. I wanted to like go visit campuses with them and go to road games. And we ended up in the SEC, and like I know that objectively my program, my school is making more money, but I don't care. That's not exciting to me that we're finishing like 8th in the SEC in football every single year. Right. That's not that fun. We never recruit up to that level. So like selfishly, I would prefer to be the Nebraska in the Big Ten.
It's a very bizarre sell that somehow some of these schools have convinced their fans that this, I guess you could say, will have more resources to then recruit, to then compete, but it's kind of like, to me, it feels like, I think your way of thinking about it makes the most sense. Like if I was a fan of, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of an example of who, like Oregon and Washington, I guess, are 2 schools that are about to leave the Pac-12. It feels like that's imminent. It feels like they want to go to the Big Ten. I would want to go if I was, or I guess I'm not like that scared, but there's got to be some sort of like calculus of like, all right, who gives a shit about how much money we're going to, if I'm a fan, I'm saying, if I'm like a fan of Washington, okay, cool, we're going to make X more dollars. What does that mean for me? I have to watch us play Maryland now and play Rutgers and we're going to play Penn State, which might be fun in some way, but like not, the travel's just going to be ridiculous.
Not to go NBA on you, but like it's like any NBA fan who cares about their owner paying the luxury tax is the biggest loser in the world. It's like, I don't want our billionaire owner to have to spend more money. It's like, no, he should pay all of it all the time.
So it's really weird. And I guess like the schools have done a good job of telling the fans, no, if we get more money, that means we can, compete recruiting wise with everyone else in the bit. But I feel like what's being lost in all this
doesn't matter.
If we look up, Jim, and there's 2.5, three. I'll say three. The Big 12 is going to survive, and we could talk about the Big 12 in a second because they are very much making a basketball play, and I love their strategy. But if we look up and all there's 30 teams and only 3 conferences, whatever, there can only be one champion that comes out of these conferences. And I think like that's like a weird wrinkle about this as well, is like you have to almost readjust. Like a school like UCLA is so used to, we win conference championships or we're competing for them every single year. Well, guess what, UCLA? Purdue has the same thought. Michigan State has the same thought. Indiana has the same. And now, as we keep stacking up all these schools, you're going to go into a Big Ten basketball season where like 12 fucking programs think like the standard is we win the Big Ten. And it's like, you can't. There's only one school that wins.
Yeah, so like do the banners get cheapened when you think about like,
so
you won the Big Ten back when there were 14 teams?
Yeah, right,
you kidding me? There's 36 now.
Right. It's so weird. So I guess let's talk. We'll do quick realignment because I want to talk about the basketball part. I want to talk about the Pac-12 part, and basically what I want to talk about is the Bill Walton part.
I was waiting for it. I was hoping that we would get there. I was hoping
that's really it. The Bill, as the Pac-12 is just dying a slow death. And most people listening to this by now, Arizona might have jumped ship and might be in the Big 12. Who the hell knows at this point? But as it's just like slowly bleeding out, my mind just goes to Bill Walton every time. It's like the second UCLA and USC join the Big Ten, I'm like, damn. Does that mean Bill Walton's going to be calling Big Ten games, or does that mean Bill Walton is out of UCLA, is done with his own alma mater? Like, what does that mean? Now Colorado's going to the Big 12, and I'm thinking, damn, Bill Walton's not going to go back to Boulder anymore and call games in Boulder.
Yeah. Wandering around the town as like the background, the B-roll.
What happens if the Pac-12, the Pac-9, I guess it is now, soon to be Pac-8? What happens to Bill Walton? Who gets Bill Walton in all of this?
I feel like the Big Ten's going to have to drag him in, but just the phrase "Conference of Champions" that he incessantly screams, and like, yes, you haven't won since what, 96? I don't think they've won a national title, so it's not really the Conference of Champions in that sense anymore. But
97
Arizona.
Yeah.
He's going to follow UCLA. Like you're saying, he can't break up with his alma mater. That would be too heartbreaking. But then what, you're going to have Bill Walton doing an East Coast game with because part of his charm is it's after dark.
Right.
People are a little, on edge, or if you're on the East Coast, probably had a cocktail or two, and you're like, yeah, I'll get down with a Bill Walton game, and that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, my solution, I guess, would be let Bill Walton just be he roams from former whatever the Pac-12 schools were as of last year. Bill Walton just goes to all those schools still, and he so when he's in Boulder, he's calling a Big 12 game, and when he's in LA,
free agent
calling he's just a free agent. He put him on the Robbie Hummel deal. How the hell does Robbie Hummel get a call like every? And
so like all-time quarterback, but Bill Walton's just all-time Pac-12 based on 2023.
However, Hummel's figured out how to be on Big Ten Network and ESPN, and Bill Raftery's on like Fox and CBS, and like call Robbie Hummel and Bill Raftery's agent, let him represent Bill Walton, and just get this man on. He goes to his same spots, and he doesn't even. No, he just basically don't tell Bill Walton the Pac-12's dead. Just don't tell him.
And I'm sure he's not reading Twitter and finding out. So that's
he's still going to Eugene, and he doesn't even realize he's calling a Big Ten game. He thinks it's a non-conference. Wisconsin's coming into Eugene, and he's just
It won't faze him. It won't faze him. He will come with the same passion, the same tangents, the same stories that aren't relevant.
How much will you mourn the? I'm calling it, by the way. The Pac-12's dead. The Pac-12 is. Do you agree? Would you agree with that? I feel confident that we're
even
if
it went. Like, I don't know the football brands as strongly, but like if you pull in San Diego State and like Gonzaga from a basketball standpoint, like it's still not going to drive the same kind of revenue. And I saw somebody on Twitter the other day trying to do the math for their like Apple TV subscriptions they would need to make up the difference financially. It's like it's never happening. So I don't know how it
wasn't it like they have to get like 32 million new people to subscribe.
Yeah,
to
and it's like the most watched game last year was like 5 million or something. It's like the math doesn't work.
I mean, I lived in LA, and I had that attitude towards the Pac-12 network where every time I would do a show and I would talk about the Pac-12 network and how I don't even know how to get it, and where someone would inevitably hit me up and be like, all you have to do, they're like, it's really easy. If you want to watch the Pac-12 games, all you have to do is this. My eyes would glaze over as I'm like reading the DM, and I would not do it. And all basically, I kept finding out over and over and over that I had access to this, because I would always be like, yeah, it's fucking crazy. I live in LA and I can't even watch UCLA basketball games unless I get the, and everyone would be like, yes, you can. All you have to do is just go to sling.tv /
I don't believe that.
I'm not paying. And I guess I say that to say, if this Pac-12 media deal goes through and the Pac-12 remains on life support because they're counting on like 32 million Apple Plus, I will continue to come on this show and be like, damn, I wish I could watch Pac-12 basketball. Exactly. And everyone's going to be like, dude, it's not that hard. All you have to do is Apple TV.
You watch Ted Lasso, dude. Don't you just watch it on the same thing?
I'm not paying for that shit. I'm not like pulling out my fucking Apple TV remote to watch. No. And that's the problem that they have. And that's I'm calling it. The Pac-12's dead. Like, it's because there's no, like, Arizona is very obviously once out. I think Oregon and Washington are just trying to play the like at what point do we jump? The Big Ten is, I don't know.
Honestly, that's what I'm most excited about, is the death of Pac-12 Network, because I always said it was like an island in the sky. I was like, I'll never be able to watch those games. For any mid-major nerds listening, the Colonial has a deal with Flow Hoops. I don't know if you know. I can never watch those games. I have a bet on a game and I can't, because it's like $40 a month.
Flow Hoops?
It is $40 a month. It's more than like
the
Amazon Prime.
Lady? She calls every game.
I wish that was the case. Yeah, in the little box, and you're turning into your parents' commercials are all they have.
Flow Hoops. So the Pac-12's dead. I'm calling it. You can join me if you'd like. As first reported on the Mark Titus show by Jim Root and Mark Titus. Yep. The Pac-12 network's been dead, but the Pac-12 is dead. How much are you going to mourn that? How much do you mourn? Like, as you sit there and think back on it, and you're bouncing your grandkid on your knee, and they're like, "Grandpa, what was the Pac-12 like?" Is that, or are you just like, who gives a shit? Let's keep it moving.
I'm closer to who gives a shit, and part of because, like you said with Nicole, like the Cals and Stanfords are probably going to kind of drift into oblivion a little bit, and those haven't been super relevant brands for a while. We mentioned they haven't won a title since '97. Like, it's not been this powerhouse conference where if like the Big 12 died, I would be just completely beside myself.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree with you that it's to me the Pac-12 has kind of already died. It's been dying a slow death for a while, and the basketball.
Every time we do a Pac-12 preview on our pod, the numbers just crater, man. Yeah. And like the Pac-12 fans stand up for themselves on Twitter, but I'm like, I know there are less of you. I've seen it.
Yeah, and by the way, all those people are tweeting from like the beach, and from like I lived it firsthand. I would like all these people that are like, dude, we care. Those people don't care as much, and it's not like that is like a very real thing, that like it's just the lifestyle out there is very different. Yeah. But
the fact that they're nice to me when I say there aren't Pac-12 fans tells me they don't care as much as the East Coast people who get really mad if I read.
Right, exactly. You think you care, but you don't know what caring looks like until you've pissed off UConn
you're
fans. You're
complimenting me still. What's wrong with you?
Just tweet. Like if you tweeted that like Pullman, Washington is a dump, the reaction you get from Washington State fans would be very, very different than if you're like Syracuse, New York is a dump.
Or even like Ole, like the A10 fans are rabid. Yeah. They would skewer me if I said something about St. Bonaventure. So
the Washington State fans would just be like, "Come on, man, we're doing the best." Like they would.
It'd be cute. It'd be a cute response.
But yeah, I think the Pac-12 for me has just been slowly dying anyway. And the moment that I mourned it was just like when UCLA and USC left, it was done. It was done in my eyes, because like the one thing that has popped for me in the Pac-12 from a basketball standpoint. And Oregon has had good program and some really good teams through the years. Washington has been relevant at different times. I don't know how good they've actually been, but they've been good. USC has been really good as of late. They got a great program. But the one thing that has popped, and I think has popped nationally, is the Arizona-UCLA rivalry. And the second UCLA joined the Big Ten, that goes away. Or I mean, maybe they'll still play each other, but like the whole like those are the two schools fighting for dominance in their own conference. So like for me, Colorado leaving, and now Arizona's probably going to the Big 12, and whatever happens next, it's just sort of the writing's been on the wall for years. So like I've already done my mourning, I guess. I've already done damn, this sucks, because
you always say canary in the coal mine, right? That was like those two leaving was like Pac-12 should have known.
So it does suck though, because I do think that the Pac-12 has been fun to watch through the years, and like you said, like when I would live on Eastern time zone, like being able to throw in a game at 11 p.m. was freaking awesome. And Yeah, but I here we are. Pac-12 basketball is officially dead, I think.
Yeah, we're erecting a gravestone, and unfortunately, it's over.
The other conference realignment thing I wanted to throw at you is Arizona is going to the Big 12. That seems like that's happening. I'm treating that as fact, by the way. So until proven otherwise, Arizona, congratulations, you're on to the Big 12. UConn to the Big 12 is being talked about, Jim.
Please no.
Do you hate this as much as I do?
I hate it.
Yeah.
The only realignment thing that has made sense in the last 5 years was UConn going to the Big East and going back. And it's obviously worked out well for them. We discussed them winning a title at the very beginning of this. And why would you want to go away from that for a football program that doesn't matter, quite frankly? And I don't think UConn fans care about the football program. It's basketball.
Right. My thought is that because Arizona going to it's interesting that Arizona is now, all eyes are on Arizona as you talk about the Pac-12 as being the next school to make their decision. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think the Big 12 is very obviously going after basketball schools, right? Because remember when they were flirting with Gonzaga? Do you remember that? There was a 2-day period where Gonzaga and Big 12 officials were meeting. When was that? That was during the season, wasn't it?
Gonzaga's been flirting with a lot. There was a Big East rumor. They're just kind of figuring out what might be the best place to go.
But I think the Big 12, and this was really smart of them, I think they realize that you're not going to be able to compete football wise with the Big Ten and the SEC. You're simply not. But there is a path to survival, which may be build an awesome basketball conference. Like we said at the top, basketball is not irrelevant. It just doesn't. It's not as big of a whale as football is. So if you can build your own basketball whale, then the SEC and the Big Ten, which Nicole said that the SEC doesn't want to break. I'm not buying that. I think both the SEC and the Big Ten at some point are going to look at each other. Whether it's 20 years from now, at some point they're both going to look at each other and say why the fuck are we inviting Mountain West schools and
to the
conference
tournament?
to anything. Why don't we just play? Yeah. We'll send our champion, you send your champion, we'll play, and we'll call it the national champ. We don't need all these other small schools. And I think if the Big 12 continues to add in Arizona, and I don't want them to add UConn, but they seem interested, or there seems to be discussions. They can add a UConn if they can figure out a way to get Gonzaga for basketball. If you build the basketball super conference, which they're kind of already there. They don't even need Arizona at this point. The Big 12 is absurd. It's absurd. The Big 10 and the SEC can't ignore them now. You cannot be ignored. You cannot. If the Big 10 and SEC schools all form their own basketball tournament and one team comes out of that, the winner, that team cannot in good faith say we are the national champions.
No chance.
You can't do that now.
And even just kind of from a financial standpoint, I don't know exactly how the math's going to work on this, but if you get 20 teams in the Big 12, and that includes UConn and Arizona and Houston, all the teams they're adding now, and there's those shares that you get if you win in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
The Big 12 could end up putting 11 teams into the tournament.
Yeah.
And those teams all go to the Sweet 16 and half of them are in the Elite 8. And suddenly they're making all of the money from the NCAA tournament, and that's going to really start to upset SEC and Big 10 for sure.
Yeah. I don't want UConn. What sucks is that I don't want UConn in the Big 12, Jim, but I've reached a point with all this where I just don't really have much fight left to give. So I think I'll sit here and be UConn to the Big 12. No, absolutely not. Do not let that happen. The second the headline gets announced, or it gets announced that they're off to the Big 12, and be that's going to be a pretty fun basketball. You
won't be picketing for this.
I will not be damn it. How do yeah, you're right. I won't. So I don't know what that makes me, a coward, I guess, but I just kind of, or just a realist. I guess this is just the reality.
You tired.
Yeah, I'm just tired. I'm just exhausted by this whole thing. Let's talk about some actual college basketball. Let's talk about where we're headed as heading into next season, because what a doozy of an offseason it's been.
Can I ask you?
Yeah, go ahead.
The portal era, do you like that college basketball has become closer to, it's not a 12-month sport, it's not the NBA, it's not the NFL, but even for us trying to do a college basketball pod every week, very specifically about news, it's been kind of fun that the transfer portal and even some of the insane coaching stuff that's been going on that we're going to hit, there's storylines galore
There's
in the
always
off
something.
season. We have something to talk about. So I kind of love that.
In a way that there never has been before. Now there always is something. There were the transfer portal is wild. It's going to continue to get more wild every offseason moving forward. So this is great for guys like you and I that have to
let me be a junkie and just, I can feed our little small pond some sort of food.
No, kind of what I just said about realignment is my attitude towards the portal, where it's like I don't. So it's tough because like I obviously want guys to be able to do what's best for themselves or what's not best for themselves. I want the free agent. Because let's be honest, like that's what's funny to me is every time you talk about like a guy transferring, everyone steps in and it's like he should be able to do what's best for himself, and it cracks me up that people like the general public has been led to believe that every guy that's transferring is doing what's best for him, and he's not. There are a lot of guys that are not doing what's best for themselves.
And they're frequently not deciding it themselves. There's a handler or somebody involved that sends them somewhere.
They're absolutely making a mistake. A lot of mistakes are made every offseason. But I think the players should have the freedom to make those mistakes, and I think like it's on them to realize it's a mistake. Not like you can't have Big Daddy University being like, no.
You have to stay and earn your place.
Yeah.
Like it's,
But obviously, like I'm like everybody else. Where I'm like I hate that it's happening. I hate that I don't hate transfers. I hate like the ones that I think got me this year were Ryan Nembhard. That one, Ryan Nembhard and Hunter Dickinson were two that like Hunter made sense in the sense that Michigan kind of stunk last year, and he like. He's way too talented to be wasted on a team that's not relevant.
Yep.
So that part makes sense, but that is kind of it's not kind of, it's literally unprecedented. A guy that good, who's the face of a program like that to enter the portal. So that one kind of caught me off guard. Caleb Love is similar situation where like Caleb Love wasn't a great, like by the time the season ended, Carolina fans
they kind of throw him to the airport, I think, but yeah.
But he's kind of like the face, like, so those sorts of things are new. Ryan Nembhard was the one that broke my brain because I felt like Creighton was good enough to win a national championship this past season.
Yep, and they were going to be next year.
And they were going to be next year. And for a guy, again, I'm not saying Ryan Nembhard made a mistake. I'm not saying he is supposed to, quote unquote, have done it this way. My understanding of the way college basketball works is a guy like him looks at how this past season ended and says, let's run it back and let's win a national title next year. And he did not do that. He said, I'm leaving. And like that one broke my brain because I was like, oh, this is just a completely new world. Like take everything you thought you knew and throw it. Because even up till that point, the way we knew there would be a ton of transfers in the portal, but it was always like I felt like you could look at every team that made the tournament, their top two scorers, if they are eligible to come back, they're probably going to come back.
Yeah.
And like you just kind of start with that default.
And with Nembhard, he was part of a class with Kaluma and Trey Alexander that had come to Creighton together and like had helped elevate it with Kalkbrenner, who's a different class, I know. But it was like those guys had grown together. Right. They just got to the Elite Eight. They can see that it's possible to go farther.
They were the best Creighton team maybe ever. I don't know, like because that's the story with Creighton since McDermott's been there. Is that they're fun. They can beat Villanova on a random Tuesday night. They can compete. They can get to a certain level. But what happens in March? They're always going to flame out. They're never going to be. And finally, you have a Creighton team where you're like, this is it. This is the team. This is these are the chosen ones. And Creighton's still going to be good next year for what it's worth. It's just like that. Yep. That's the part that a decision like that kind of shook me a little bit, where I was just like.
Because that's the one thing I've sided with the people who are anti-portal a little bit is like, oh, the team I love doesn't have the same guys for 4 years anymore. And like, I get that. That's kind of frustrating that you just have to cheer for like, the name on the front, the guy's only there for a year or two, and then he's going to freelance and go somewhere else. And Nembhard was the perfect kind of guy that seemed like, oh man, 4-year player, going to be absolutely beloved, set a whole bunch of records there, take the team as far as it's ever been. And then, like you said, just shatters it.
Another weird part for me is how guys are treated by their schools. I'm curious about like the 10, 15, 20 years later deal. Like if Ryan Nembhard wants to come back to Creighton, are they going to honor him at halftime? And is he going to wave to the crowd or no? I don't know. And I think every school is going to be different. I guess it probably depends on how good he is in the NBA, honestly.
Are we proud of him or not?
Like when Joe Burrow transferred from Ohio State, Buckeye, like we love Joe Burrow for what it's worth, but we were also just like, what? I mean, like we're going to be fine. Like our team's going to be fine. We have Dwayne Haskins is a great quarterback, or the show goes on. It sucks we're gonna lose a guy that's from Ohio, but whatever. Good luck, Joe Burrow. Don't care. And then Joe Burrow blows up, and we're like, wait, Joe Burrow, come back.
He's the son of Ohio. Come on, man.
Come on. He's our guy. He graduated from Ohio. So I think maybe it's that. It's just like it depends on how much clout can you give the university after the fact.
Right. What have you earned us? And there's going to be too Calipari's a master of this. Of like you just kind of have to publicly support the guy because otherwise it's going to be negative recruitment against you. It's like, wow, Creighton disowns you if you transfer. You better not go there.
That's a great point.
So there's going to be that.
Another one that flew under the radar that there are probably a lot of people listening that don't even realize that happened. Keshad Johnson, transferred from San Diego State, is another sort of
starter on a national title team. Like
another one that like kind of breaks my brain. Where I was like, what is this the first? Like, I'm too lazy to actually do the research, but I'm like, this has to be like the first starter on a national. On a guy, the guy started in a national championship game and is not going back to his school again. I want to be clear. Like, I don't know all the circumstances. I don't know. I'm not privy to all that information. I'm just saying, like, the world that I've lived in for 36 years is that if you start on a team that's playing for a national title and you have eligibility, you have that like hashtag unfinished business mindset, and you say, let's come back and take care of business. And he's like, no, I'm gonna go to Arizona.
I think that's why people are going to really fall in more love with FAU this year because they had all those guys that could have gone and were like very publicly being poached. Dusty May talked about it at the Final Four. He's like, they're already recruiting my guys. And they all stayed right after the tournament. In that press conference, they were like, we can't wait to get back in the gym. And sometimes that can be talk. But like 8 of the top 9 guys are going back to FAU. They only lost 1 graduate, and they're going to, I don't know, run it back, be a top 15 team
What do you think they'll be ranked to start the season? Because who's high on it? Parrish is high on him, right?
There's a wide range.
Doesn't like Gary have him like top 5 or something in his?
Well, and like you could maybe make a case for them top 5, but it's not like a couple of years, however many years when Loyola made the Final Four or Chicago, and they brought back 3 starters and none of their bench, and people were ranking them top 5 again after they made the Final Four. It's like, all right, relax. This team was not that good all year. They were an 11 seed, but like FAU is underseeded as a 9,
right?
And bring back everybody. I want to get your take on a friend of mine made a comparison on Dusty May, native of Indiana.
Yep.
Took a mid-major program to the Final Four.
Yep. Go on.
Brings it all back.
I'm almost there. Keep going.
Is this the next Brad Stevens? He could conceivably go to the Final Four again.
He could conceive, And what happens after that? What was fascinating about Dusty May to me and him coming back to FAU is that if FAU loses. If they lose to Memphis in the first round, he's not a hot commodity. But like FAU going to the Final Four, if they would have just made the Sweet 16, he's probably gone, right? But like I think them playing so deep into the cycle got to a point where, because I remember after the Final Four, me and you probably and everyone else were like, all right, so is Dusty May going to come back, or is he going to get a big job? And then we all looked around and we're like, what big jobs are there?
Yeah, I guess that's because they got claimed during the Sweet 16. And then Bob Huggins said, hold my beer. I'll give you... Wait, don't hold my beer. Give it back to me. Because they were like the coaching carousel had kind of stopped spinning. So I'm curious, like if... I'm not accusing Dusty May of anything, but I'm curious this year if FAU does in fact go to the Final Four, has his agent's phone been blowing up earlier in the cycle than it has? And yeah. Well, like
I love the comparison though. I think Dusty May is he's freaking awesome. He's like a good dude too. Great interview, like fun.
Yep. Does he
personality?
Does he bypass a big job and become the NBA guy? Like is that world possible where Brad Stevens ended up straight to the NBA from Butler, which is insane. But
that is insane. That was insane,
hindsight,
dude.
Boston Celtics, Butler to Boston Celtics.
He went from, and not the Big East Butler Bulldog. Well, where was it? Were they in the Big East for a year? They were joining the Big East.
They were A-10, I believe, for a year.
I thought so. Yeah,
the, like Roosevelt Jones team might have been the A-10. Yeah,
and then I think they were Big East after he left. Did he?
I think so too.
Did he do a year at Big East? But when they went to the national championship in 2 years, were they Horizon 1 year?
Yeah,
or both years.
Yeah, both years. I think
they were Horizon both years.
And it's like the CUSA is probably not as bad as the Horizon was then, but like FAU's facilities and stuff are sub-horizon.
Yeah.
Like, it was really bad. And part of what you're saying, where them going from to the Final Four instead of the Sweet 16, I think just like rallied more money to pay Dusty, to get more facilities, and it, like, just kind of infuse more money into the program where, like you said, Sweet 16, he might be gone.
The hard part about speculating about this thing is that there's always an example you can point to as to what decision he'll make. So yeah, you got the Brad Stevens parallel where like Dusty May's going to go back to the Final Four and then he's going to go coach the Lakers. That's where we're headed.
Exactly.
Then there's the Mark Few parallel where it's like, no. Dusty May is obviously cut from the Mark Few cloth, where he's going to just enjoy what he has, build this program, this smaller school, just continue to, build from here and not always think the grass is greener. And there's everything in between, and like trying to
Jim Larinaga that went George Mason Final Four, and he's at Miami, doing big things there. Like, there's, like you said, the whole range.
You can point to any example. So like trying to figure out what he's going to do. But no, it gives us something to talk about all season. Do you think they're going to be good? Do you think this is like, because speaking of things you can point to, this FAU team in particular going into the season, you'll see a lot of comparisons to North Carolina of last year. Like, you'll see people making those comparisons if they're low on FAU. If they're like, nah, this team's not that good. Didn't we learn our lesson with North Carolina last year when they were preseason number one? And just because you go on a fluke run to the Final Four, that doesn't mean anything. But then I think they're more 2013 Wichita State to me. That feels like more of a not that they feel more that direction to me. Now they're stepping up conferences, and that's going to be more. I think the American should pose more of a challenge than Conference USA did. So I don't mean to say that they're going to enter the tournament undefeated or anything like that. But I think they're legit. And like you said, like last year, this was not a North Carolina team that was like they were garbage last. I'm talking about FAU. Like, it wasn't like FAU was garbage and then just flipped a switch. They were consistently a very good basketball team all year. And so are like going into this season, are you someone that's like if I told you FAU is a national championship contender,
I buy it. I buy it.
And you have to, I think.
Yeah. The biggest thing I love about them is they are like made to succeed in the postseason. You talk sometimes about Purdue and like how their style is just not really set up for the NCAA tournament, but like FAU won games in the 50s, 60s, 70s, all through that tournament run. They won that rock fight with Tennessee, who had just out-physical Duke. But then they also have four guards that they can play all the time, and all those guys can shoot. Like, they are kind of an amoeba chameleon style-wise. That makes them so much more suited for the NCAA tournament, where they can win more than one way, whereas certain other teams, it's like, well, if we can't feed our 7-4 guy, we lose.
Yeah, yeah. Purdue, I told my dad I'm willing Purdue to the Final Four this year. What do we think about that? We're now that the dust has settled a little bit, thoughts on Matt Painter in general? Just like,
I think he rocks. I think Purdue's going to be awesome.
You've done nothing. Yeah. All right.
I'm very heavy on not like overreacting on a coach's legacy to tournament results. Like Tony Bennett lost in the first round. It was like, you know what? He's still an awesome tournament coach. And then lo and behold, he wins the entire thing the next year. I'm not really forecasting that Purdue will do the same thing, but they played with two freshman guards all last year. Those guys are going to get better. Their biggest weakness was handling pressure, and they played the smallest team in the country in the first round, and they gave them a little bit of issues with their speed. They're going to get better in that department, and if they're able to, maybe find a little more flexibility stylistically, they can have a chance.
And this Miles Colvin kid they have coming in from Indy is really good, and I like him a lot. And he's going to be very athletic, and that's what I think that was missing too, is like athleticism
on the wing, just kind of some sort of pop.
Like, you don't even need him to be a 15-point per game scorer. You just need him to just bring a different element. So you're not like. Yeah, so you can't pressure the guards, and they're like backing the ball up the floor because they're kind of rattled by the pressure.
Yeah, can we throw a lob over the top to Colvin? Like that? That'll just completely relieve the pressure. Yeah, it's a deep threat in a football game.
Exactly. I think Purdue's going to go to the Final Four. I said it on my show. I'm sticking by it. It's going to come back to bite me, but I do think there's like a cycle. I genuinely believe this, that there's a psychological part of it that like once you've seen the boogeyman, I think that's why Virginia. I mean, Kyle Guys told me this many times that like if they didn't lose to UMBC, they're not winning the national championship the next year. He thinks that would not have happened, and part of what played into that is like once you've hit rock bottom and you have no place to go. like next year against Gardner-Webb, they're a 1 seed. They're playing 16 seed Gardner-Webb. Gardner-Webb's up on them at halftime. Yeah. And instead of like tightening their buttholes and being like, oh shit, I wonder what Twitter's saying about us. They're like, we've already seen what this looks like. We don't have to be scared.
Yep. And then look at some of the other games they win in that tournament. Like some of the most incredible late game, like the win over the Auburn game, the Purdue game. What was the Elite Eight one? Was that the Purdue one with the?
That was Purdue. Yeah,
that was
the
Purdue
buzzer
in the
beater.
Elite Eight.
Yeah, but I think Purdue going into the next tournament, if they're in a tight game in the first round, second round, whatever, they're just gonna look around and be like, "You think this scares us? Like we lost to fucking Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yeah, we were born in the dark,
like,
man.
We were born in the dark. Like this doesn't faze us one bit." And then like I told TJ on a show a few months ago, Zach Edey's not getting any smaller, Jim. He's just not. He's not going to shrink.
That seems unlikely.
The science is pretty solid on that. He's going to be a 7'4" monster all season. And
I had someone ask me recently if I thought he'd win Big Ten Player of the Year again. I was like, yeah, by a lot. Like he's going to steamroll. There's no TJD this year.
I feel bad for Edey because I think the way the season ended and really. He's almost like too big, but I feel like he was disrespected by the average college basketball fan last year. I think Zach Edey is way, way better than I think. If you just like go to a random campus on this country and stop a guy and say, "Are you a basketball fan?" I'm like, yeah. They're like, "What do you think of Zach Edey?" It feels like outside of West Lafayette, people would be like, overrated, sucks.
Yeah, he's got the big allegations,
just big, all that
like,
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then they go on to lose to Fairleigh Dickinson, and it's not his fault. It was literally everyone else's fault on the team. And I feel bad for him in that regard because I think he's awesome, and I think he was very obviously the National Player of the Year last year. Who could possibly take it from him this year? Like, is he? What path is he not winning it this year?
Well, Big Ten especially for sure. But then like National Player of the Year, the one who's got a lot of the momentum. It's going to be basically the same train as Edey last year is Klingen at UConn because of how unbelievable he was in limited minutes. Now he's probably going to play 30 minutes a game for that team and be a complete terror for the UConn's reigning national champs.
UConn's going to be good.
Yes, they are.
I don't think they're going to be. I got to be careful. UConn fans are fired up, and they're very empowered right now, having won the national championship. So if you say anything other than they're repeating, they get fired up about it. But I mean, I love the guys they lost too much. Hawkins is my favorite player in college basketball last year, and Andre Jackson fucking rules. Like they're going to be very good. I just like whenever a guy like Hawkins, who I love so much, leaves, I just like immediately think I got to see what the backfill looks like.
Well, they're very high on Spencer, the Rutgers transfer, because he can shoot on the move a little bit. But like Hawkins was the best on-move shooter in the country last year. Like every time he came off a screen, there's double. You dump it down to Sanogo for a dunk. Boom, easy enough. Like Spencer's not going to quite draw that level of attention.
Yeah,
and Jackson. You don't repeat
Swiss
what he does.
Army knife.
Yeah.
Like the dude's athleticism. He could do anything out there. Quick break to talk about BodyArmor. The Mark Titus Show is brought to you by BodyArmor. From sports drinks to sport water, which I'm drinking right now. I'm drinking the sport water right this second. BodyArmor keeps us hydrated all day long, whether we're talking, watching, or even playing sports. BodyArmor is our go-to choice. Real hydration, real ingredients, packed with electrolytes, vitamins, and nothing artificial. BodyArmor has great tasting flavors like strawberry banana and blue raspberry. The best athletes in the world hydrate with BodyArmor, like Ronald Acuna Jr., Christian McCaffrey, Alex Morgan, and the latest athlete to join the team. You ready for this? I think you guys have heard of this guy, Joe Burrow. Famous Buckeye Joe Burrow. Ohio State alum Joe Burrow. Just an absurd array of talent is on the BodyArmor team. I've been drinking lately. I've been killing the sport waters around the office. So this just happened. I can confirm that there is a massive shipment to the Chicago office of BodyArmor that just came in, just on pallets and pallets of the sport water, and the mood in the office instantly changed. It is like fighting for the BodyArmor every time we come here it's like the Hunger Games. Every time I come to this office, it's been like Hunger Games trying to get my hands on some of this BodyArmor. There is a massive pallet out there right now. Everybody's fired up. I am curious to see what it's going to look like in like 2 or 3 weeks, because it feels like it should be enough to last us until we get to the new office. But these jackals out here, man, I'm telling you, BodyArmor shows up in the Barstool office. People are just, they can't get enough of it. So BodyArmor is available in stores nationwide. Head on over to the BodyArmor store on Amazon and get yours today, whether it is the sport water or the TJ. What are you drinking? What do you got there? You got the
I'm big on the water. I got the
strawberry banana. Yeah,
right
I love the strawberry banana. I got a shipment of that in my house that I just hammer. Freaking love it. BodyArmor, go get some. I'm thinking if anybody beats out Edey for National Player of the Year, though, it's Filipowski. What do you think about that?
Flip?
Yeah, what do you think about that? Not a
what
great
if
pick?
I said the more likely Duke player is Proctor than Filipowski? But I think there's some kind of crush on Proctor out there. The young guard, I mean, and he made some plays last year in the tournament. I remember one specific like turnaround crossover against Tennessee that I was like, okay, that was a pro move. But I like the idea of a brand as big as Duke kind of overtaking Edey. And Duke is probably going to be number 1 or number 2 in almost every ranking going into the year. So
they're going to be very good.
Yeah.
I remember when Ohio State played Duke last year, and I was screaming at the television, "These guys suck." Talking about Duke, like I felt like my commentary after the game, and I'll share it again with you, Jim. People are dying to hear my commentary on the ACC Big Ten Challenge from last year. I felt like Ohio State was rattled by the jersey and rattled by playing in Cameron Indoor, and like I was screaming at the TV, these guys actually suck. And if you like, now Duke ended up being pretty good by the end of the year, but at that point in the season, I was like, these guys, like all these guys fucking suck. Except for Filipowski. Filipowski was killing us, and like I just fell in love with him on that night. And I think he's so versatile and so good. There's a ton of Proctor hype going into this season.
A lot of it. So even going back to last year preseason, they brought in Lively, Whitehead, Proctor, Filipowski, and people were like, "Well, the worst freshman is clearly Filipowski." Like that was all the word out of their practice was like, "Oh, this guy's not going to start. He's too slow-footed to play with Lively." Proctor's the big star, and then like. From day one, Filipowski's your best player, your alpha, and I was like, okay, let's figure out, shuffle our minds. Duke fans hadn't gotten on board with that yet.
But Proctor's come along now, and now because I'm seeing the same thing you're seeing, where like everyone's talking about Proctor being like, but I don't know.
Yeah, early plug. I work on the Almanac preseason basketball preview, and we've done our All-American votes, and there was like 50-50 between whether you're going to vote Proctor, first team All-American, or Filipowski, or some both. But I was like, production wise, you got to go Flip. Like he's clearly the more proven type of guy at this point.
But we're kind of like painting ourselves into a corner as a college basketball community where we just all like talk about the big guys. Like it's all big guys. That's it.
They're the ones that come back.
I know that is true.
NBA
I guess
spits them out.
That is true. They're the ones that come back. But it's like, man, I don't know how sexy that is to everybody else to be like, all right, here's a guy who could knock off the 7'4" giant at Purdue. What about this giant at UConn? Or
can I pitch you my favorite guard for next year that I think people are going to love?
Please.
He's not Marquise Noel, but he's going to Kansas State. My guy Tylor Perry, transferring to North Texas. They won the NIT last year. He's won everywhere he's gone. He won a national championship in junior college, and we know what Jerome Tang can do with a point guard. I think he's going to take off next year. The name is so clearly usable for branding. Right. Like people are going to love giving him nicknames. Every single Medea movie is going to get a nickname on there. I think he's going to be awesome at Kansas State. I can't wait to see him.
Well, there we go. We'll write that down. Tylor Perry. That's the easy name to remember, as you said.
Exactly.
All right. I'll pay attention. Yeah, Kansas State is. I kept waiting for. Not really. I wasn't actually, but like I just like. Thought that at some point, because Kansas State lost to Butler last year, so I kept thinking like at some point Kansas State's gonna like
Butler was bad, it was terrible.
They lost to Butler, and I kept thinking like at some point this Kansas State run that they're on is going. I'm not even talking about the tournament. I'm talking about like the whole freaking season that they were so fun and so good all year, and I was like at some point, you know. The scouting's going to get better on these guys, and people are going to start figuring them out.
You know how you benefited on that? We thought the same thing, and we were betting that with dollars over at the 3-man league, and we just kept hemorrhaging money all year.
Surely,
at some point in like late January, maybe it was early January, I was pitching Kai and Matt like, guys, I think we gotta say they're good because we keep losing.
Yeah. Who else was that for you last year? Like who else? I'm thinking back on it. Like, who?
Honestly, FAU is a team I was like, they can't be this good. They can't be this good. And they just kept winning by 30 every single night. And I finally came around on that one.
Were you a Charleston guy? I was very anti-Charleston.
I think Pat Kelsey's going to... I've said he could turn that into like East Coast Gonzaga because the resources, the support, small town, no pro team. Like, I think Charleston
It's a cool city.
I
had nothing against Pat Kelsey. I had something against like every Charleston game. They would be down like 17.
Oh, we called them the best live betting team in the country last year.
It's like a team that's like 209th on Ken Palm, and they're down 17 at halftime, and then they win by 4, and like Charleston fans would be like, "Suck our dicks, we're undefeated." And I'm like, I gotta say, I think if you were playing in the Big Ten, I hate to be that guy that's like, if the mid-major was in the Big Ten, they wouldn't be this good. But
I guess
it's pretty clearly
to the degree that they were like at one point 21-1. It's like, all right, they're not quite.
They're not quite 21-1.
Yeah.
But no, it would be. I like Pat Kelsey. I like the idea of them building my whole thing with mid-majors in general, because I get asked this a lot. Is like, dude. I'm sure you do too. Like last year's Final Four, did you like it? Do you not like it when it's you get a Miami who's not a mid-major but and has a good basketball program, but it's still like if it's a football school, it's not like a huge basketball brand. You get a San Diego State in their first Final Four. You get an FAU. Do you like that or not? And my answer is always it's dependent on like whether I feel like the teams are representative of actually being worthy of one of the 4 best teams in the country that year. And I feel like if it's a fluke deal, I don't like it. I want to shit on the mid-majors. If it's not, I don't care. And that was kind of the split for me last year. It was like Charleston, I just felt I was like, by the time Charleston got ranked, I was like, what are we doing here? Like Charleston's not one of the 20 best teams in the country.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if FAU is awesome this year, I have no problem saying like FAU is the best team in the country. If that's how it plays out.
Yeah, it's a little more earned at this point. They've kind of have a more proven track record going back to last year in the same group of guys. Yeah, entering the Final Four last year, I was grumpy because I was like, UConn's going to win 2 games by a combined 30 points. And they ended up doing that exact thing.
Yeah.
And they had emerged so dominant. I think that was
part of what was talked about last year's Final Four too. It was like, there's one team that was so clearly better than everyone else.
Which if you looked at it seed wise, you're like, oh, it's a 4 seed, a 5 seed, a 9 seed. It's like, they're not that much better. It's like, well, they won every non-conference game by at least 10 points. Like they blew everybody out that wasn't a Big East team through the grind of that schedule. So I was a little bummed by that, but especially when you're asking like mid-majors Final Four, like I like the one cute one every year or every couple of years. But when like last year it was 4 teams that, like you said, they didn't feel represented as the 4 best teams of the year, or 2 of the best weren't there. It just kind of felt like, all right, we've got 3 that kind of managed their way here, and I don't know if I love
of you
that.
3, who's the more who wants to tongue kiss the mid-major schools the most?
Matt.
The 3-man.
I think that's probably Matt.
That's Matt.
Yeah, and Matt went to an FAU game last year in Boca Raton, and he just went head over heels for them, and is completely in like top 5. He's buying every single hype, buying the shirts, everything for next year.
Let's talk about some coaching changes that have happened this offseason, because I want to get your take on, like, I guess just like what's the one that first comes to mind? What's the one that pops the most for you?
Pitino, for sure. I mean, like,
I was hoping you'd say that.
I wrote down Pitino in New York City is so cool, and I forgot he was just in New York City. Like, Iona is in New York, but it's not the same. Like, St. John's is the premier brand. They're going to be playing at Madison Square Garden as much as possible based on what he wants to do. Like, and I think they're going to be pretty darn good. The transfer class is good.
You think because that was my follow up, was like Pitino to St. John's to me is the basketball version of Dion to Colorado, where it's like
they did the same thing to the roster.
But just like dominating the off season buzz, and they're obviously very different coaches. I mean, Rick Pitino is one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time. Deion Sanders, he won
in the SWAC.
He won in the SWAC, so it's like it's a little different. But in terms of just like, holy shit, this changes everything. I feel like the parallels are there. But then once you process like the excitement, then the follow up is like, all right, so now what do we expect moving forward? And as I said to Nicole, for Dion, he could quit today, and I think they're building a statue for him. They're like, damn, you're one of the best coaches we've ever had at Colorado. Good work, Dion. I don't think Rick Pitino is in that same boat. I think Rick Pitino is going to have to win some ball games for this to be worthwhile for St. John's. Like what is a realistic expectation both for this season and for the 5 years? So probably 3 to 5 years. I expect him to be like I don't expect a long run here.
I think they could be, and probably arguably will be in a lot of places, pick top 25 to start the year. They have a lot of hyper productive transfers that come from lower levels that, all right, do we know if they're going to translate to the Big East? That's kind of shaky, but I mean, he's such a fantastic coach that I think it'll work. The question I have with him is going forward, is he going to start trying to recruit like big time freshmen, or is he going to try to do what like Texas and even Kansas starting to now, like just mine the best couple portal guys? Yeah. Because he's not going to be there that long.
Right.
So, like, he's not going to try to build a program. He's just going to try to pick off good players every year.
I'm sure he's just going to go after the New York City guys and play that card and just play, like, Marquise Noel. Like, if Marquise Noel had more eligibility. Did Marquise Noel have
No, that was his fifth year. That was his fifth year. But,
done.
yeah, like, what an easy pitch.
If there's a scenario where Marquise Noel could have come back to Kansas State, Rick Pitino gets on the phone. He's just like, listen, I know Kansas State worked out for you last year, but, like, come home. It's time to come home.
Yeah, don't you want to do that same thing in the Garden every night? I know you did it in the tournament, like do it every single night.
I feel like that's going to be the play. But yeah, you think they'll be competitive? You think? I mean, like they're going to be really. Is Soriano back?
Soriano's like the only guy he allowed back in the gym. I think he locked everybody else out. Yeah. Like he took away. Yeah, Pasha Alexander gone. Yeah,
he went to Butler. Pasha Alexander.
I'm very curious. That's a strange fit. That's maybe a little farther down the agenda here, but no, I think they're going to be really good. They brought in the Ivy League Player of the Year, Jordan Dingle from Penn, one of the best players from Iona, Danius Jenkins, which like he's going to need a waiver. There's that whole thing this year with the two-time transfer guys trying to get their waivers, but. I think
Rothstein gets rock hard when guys don't get their waivers. John Rothstein,
he loves it, man. Slam the door on him.
The only times I ever hear about guys like not getting their waivers is Rothstein's like, and it looks like this guy that thought he could transfer twice, not so fast.
And I think because I don't think coaches want people to be able to transfer twice all the time, and I think Rothstein wants to project that.
Are you saying that
he's aligned with a lot of the coaches' interests generally?
What about Ed Cooley to Georgetown? That was one that
I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm really excited that he's in conference because I think Ed Cooley going back to Providence is going to be it won't be quite Beard back to Texas Tech last year.
Yeah,
but I think Providence fans are going to be mean to him next year.
I think it could be.
You think it'll be that level?
Because I think Chris Beard at least delivered almost a national championship. It was a national championship game, almost a national championship to Texas Tech, where I imagine there were some people in Lubbock. Now they hate the man, and I'm not here to say that the Texas Tech fans like Chris Beard, whatever. But I imagine there were a couple cooler heads in that crowd that night that were like, this guy, kind of did some great things for us, and we love. Now, Ed Cooley was a good coach of Providence, but I think the second he stabbed Providence in the back, I feel like Providence fans were like, this motherfucker never did anything for, they just immediately like were like, we never won anything. You're like, you just won the Big East for the first time. Like, no, that didn't count. We didn't win shit with this guy. And plus you got the East Coast. I just feel like the East Coast people are a little nastier than the West Texas people.
Just the amount of them that are like, well, he stopped recruiting for us in February. That's why we started sucking down the stretch. Yeah. Like he gave up on us. We're ready to give up on him.
I could see it being more vicious. I could. I don't know.
I think the East Coast. I think he might.
I could see it being more vicious. Yeah. I could see just beer cans being thrown on the court. And
it's the worst part is like Chris Beard brought a good Texas team to Lubbock last year, and they competed. They lost, I think, but. Georgetown's probably going to suck next year. Providence could beat them by 40,
and they will. Like if they're not going to let off the gas.
No.
What's the Kim English Cooley relationship? I wonder.
I think it's fairly civil, but it's odd because Kim English is a DMV guy, so and he's kind of coming from there. George Mason, true. They almost swap spots.
That's true.
I could
because that's the only thing that could stop us if Kim English has
Kim English is not
utmost respect for
he's not a take the
Ed
foot off
Cooley.
the gas guy. I don't think he's going to worry about that.
If there's just a world where Kim English is like, I respect Ed Cooley to do that too much, then we might be in trouble. But otherwise, I think the fans are like, let's win by 1,000.
Yes.
Let's throw his carcass.
Which I think that'd be great.
river.
Just like this monster. Because the atmosphere in Lubbock last year was so great. And I kind of made like a stink about it. It was like kind of what you were saying. He did so much good for that program that maybe don't completely throw him under the bus. He went to his alma mater, but like Cooley doesn't really have that defense. So
that's because there are two Texas Tech fans that I know, and one of them I reached out to for the beer game, and he said honestly, that's why I say that is because like one of them said to me like honestly I really hate that Beard did this and whatever, but like I respect that like what happened with our like he had like that sort of point of view that was like
that is not the vocal majority on Twitter.
It is definitely not. But I'm saying that there is kind of like a quiet like undercurrent.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much now that Chris Beard is But at that time there was like a quiet undercurrent of like, I want to boo him, but like honestly, he went back to his alma mater, and we almost won the national championship, and like there is sort of I am thankful for what he did for the school, and like and I don't think Ed Cooley's getting that treatment.
No,
I don't think he's getting that treatment.
Unfortunately, has not earned that, which is more fun for us because it's going to be awesome to watch.
Micah Shrewsberry to Notre Dame.
Well, Notre Dame's going to be horrific next year.
They are.
That is one of like the youngest, least talented rosters I've ever seen in a power conference, which is mean because I think he's an incredible X and O coach, and he's going to build something there. But like they're going to be starting 2 3-star guards in the backcourt in the ACC, and that's not going to be a lot of fun. He will draw up some great stuff, but I think it's going to be a slow start.
It'll be slow, but I will keep. I will carry water from Micah Shrewsberry until further notice.
Please
I will
do.
Continue. Like he could start 0-15, and I will still be.
Hell yeah.
I freaking love him.
I interviewed
love him so much.
Adam Fisher, the new Temple coach, who was on his staff at Penn State. And I was like, what did you learn from each of these guys? He's like, Micah Shrewsberry's X and O's are just beyond anything. I was like, all right, so he's never going to be horrible because he's just too good of a
he'll always
coach.
be able to draw some up. Now, the problem at the college level is you can draw some shit up, but like the guys, and I've seen it firsthand. I've been in some huddles where a play gets drawn up and then everyone goes out there and then the ref hands the ball to the guy to take it out of bounds, and then there's at least one player on the court that's like, fuck, what did we draw up again? Like, Coach, what is it?
Not even deliberately disobeying, just can't even remember.
It's like, shit, I spaced out there I forgot I was in the game. Crap, that's right. When you were drawing that up, I forgot but no, Shrewsbury's all X's and O's guy. Like I'm fired up too because he's an Indiana guy. He's a Hoosier, and to be back in Indiana, I think I think he's going to tap into. He's going to find like a bunch of like just under the radar gritty type Indiana recruits.
Well, isn't it? I mean, it's just so much harder to get guys in there, right? Like it's just you're recruiting to a different group than Indiana. Not that Indiana's a bad school by any means, but Notre Dame, that's tough.
I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Kentucky because it is a tale as old as time that by the time August rolls around, I have drank every ounce of the Kool-Aid that John Calipari is serving up, and I fall victim to his propaganda traps every single offseason without fail. And I hate it about myself, Jim, but I do it every single offseason.
So that fully includes this year?
That fully includes this year, where going into this season, like when last season ended, I was cackling laughing at Cal. I was like... I knew that they had this great recruiting class coming in, but I thought I watched YouTube clips of all these guys, as you do. That's the research you need to do on these guys.
Of course.
And I was like, there's one ball. They're not going to, like, DJ Wagner pounds the shit out of the ball. Robert Dillingham pounds the shit out of the ball. Like, these guys aren't going to be able to play together.
And they're arguably like the third and fourth best freshmen, taking touches from Bradshaw.
Justin Edwards is like, he's not going to be like, he's not going to want to play the Devin Booker role at Kentucky where it's like, hey man, you want to like play half the game. And even though you might be the best player on this team, I had my doubts. And I was ready. I was prepared to go into this season, which I'm not stupid enough to say it's a Coach Cal hot seat season. But
you're not going to say that? I think a lot of people will.
I think a lot of people will. But they're not going to fire him, is what I'm saying. I don't think it's realistic that they fire him. I don't think it's realistic that if Kentucky makes the tournament next year and loses in the first round by 20, I think John Calipari is still the coach the following season.
Yeah, but it's just going to be such a shitstorm of
I don't think he's actually on the hot seat, but to your point, I do think
he's pre-hot seat.
He's pre-hot seat.
The oven's preheating.
Okay. The oven is preheating. But no, I think he's at whatever point where you can say he's on the hot seat and you're not going to get a lot of flack for it, if that makes sense. Like, you can say he's on the hot seat, but like, I think deep down, Kentucky, the way his contract, like, I don't know, who gives a shit? The point is, Cal, this is the lowest point that Cal has had at Kentucky in terms of like not one individual season. I'm saying like the trend of the program, where we're headed. And I was prepared going into this season to pile on some more. And Jim, I got to say, what has transpired this offseason when Kentucky was crowned the global champion of the world? You
bought into that one,
I watched a little bit, and I was like, these guys play together a little bit better than I thought they did. I think Antonio Reeves is very, very good, and I think I think getting him back is massive for them. And I think Oscar Tshiebwe leaving Kentucky is going to there's a chance it could go down as the greatest addition by subtraction in the history of college basketball. The fact that they are losing a national player of the year, and I think it's going to open, like, assuming Cal isn't stubborn. Now that's a huge assumption because this is John Calipari we're talking about, and this is the complaint that every Kentucky fan has about him every year. But I think this offense can open up, and the pieces can. I think you could see there's a potential there with Kentucky. The Severe Wheeler is gone, and Oscar Tshiebwe gone. That I think there's just going to be more free flowing offense, and I think you're going to allow these dudes, these talented guys, to showcase their talent more in a way that the talent that's come through Lexington hasn't been able to do the last couple years. And now they get this freaking 7'2" dude from Croatia. What's that guy's name?
Ivica Zibanic. I can't remember exactly.
That's what I. Yeah, you know, you got it right. That was.
Shut up.
I wouldn't know. Now they get this dude from Croatia. Now I'm like, I'm back. I was prepared for this offseason to be the one where I'm like, I'm not buying any Cal bullshit. I don't care how many times he tweets out videos of him at Drake's house in Toronto. I don't give a shit. Kentucky's not going to be good. And now August rolls around and I'm like, damn, I think Kentucky might sneak up on some people. I think they might be good.
Here's what I still think they're the worst team at the Champions Classic.
Okay.
Which, if you go through it, think about that.
Please tell me I'm wrong, because I do not want, like, it's so much better for content if Kentucky's not good and we just all get to laugh at Cal.
I will say the offense they ran at Global Jam or whatever it was called was actually more open than I think they took 29 threes a game. Last year they took 18 threes a game. It's like, all right, they're starting to spread it out. But both their centers had broken feet, so they had to play small. John Calipari should be writing Bob Huggins a thank you note, because Trey Mitchell going there after the Huggins firing is massive for them. And I don't know if it's going to last into the season. He feels like kind of a micromanager to me, where the second they lose a game because they miss threes, he'd be like, no, we're not, that's it.
That's the big if. Now that's the big if, because I think Oscar being gone, now it just like opens up the possibilities. But what is John Calipari going to do with those possibilities? And is he just going to go down a familiar path where it just, it starts getting a little more stagnant and sticky? Because if he just, it's kind of funny because like the criticism of John Calipari forever is that, I'm old enough to remember when we say he just recruits dudes and then rolls the balls out and lets them play. And now I look up in 2023 and I'm like, honestly, if you want to get the best out of your team, like maybe do that.
Roll the balls out.
Just roll the balls out. Like, stop coaching, Cal.
Well, like he was the guy that, brought dribble drive motion to NCAA college basketball. It's like, oh, he's revolutionizing offense. And now it's like his offenses are kind of grinding. And he hasn't embraced the three. Like you go through, I'm looking at his KenPom page right now for you, and like the 3-point attempt rates are always like bottom 15 in the country.
Yeah, please hit us with some numbers.
Last couple of years, 330th, 351st, 292nd, 350th, 341st, 344th.
Like, and this is the percentage of shots you take that are threes.
Yes.
Am I understanding that correctly? What percentage of your field goal attempts are 3-point field goals?
So relative to the country, they are always like bottom 20.
Yeah.
And like he has good players. Like I don't think he's just has nobody that can shoot. They just kind of lean into their athleticism, getting on the glass, and if they do what they did this summer and lean into it, it can work.
Well, that's just snowballs too. To your point, saying like it might look good early, but like as the season goes on, because what happens especially if you're a younger dude, and you start missing, and you could just feel like the screws getting tightened with Cal. That like your butthole gets a little tighter as you're shooting because you're like, fuck, should I shoot? Well, if I shoot and I miss, is he gonna pull me? Are you gonna pull me if I miss this? You're not. So I could shoot. All right, I'll shoot it, and then you shoot it and you brick it inevitably, and then he pulls you.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly.
And the best offenses obviously are the ones where it's just guys aren't thinking that way. That's like when you're watching a Jay Wright coach basketball team. It's not like
I'm kind of open. I'm gonna shoot
the ball. I'm gonna immediately shoot it. I'm just gonna shoot it, and it's going to go in, and that's how this is going to work. And if we miss, we're not panicking because we're really good because. This is what we do. Yeah, So what's your answer? You're not buying into Kentucky?
I'm going to call him like top 20, but I'm not top 10. Yeah. I'm not buying the same Big Blue Kool-Aid from this global jam thing.
I think if this was like 2012 and this was the roster that John Calipari had, I think Kentucky might be number one entering the season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what's fascinating about it. Is like I think all of us are just kind of sick of the roller coaster in the game, and like,
a lot of so you mentioned like the great recruiting class. He has 4 guys in the top like 10, but everybody kept saying that this isn't that good of a class. It's not a good draft class next season, and so I'm like, did we forget that? Like, are we still labeling this great recruiting class without remembering that it's in context of not a good class?
Not all number one recruiting classes are equal.
Yeah, exactly.
You are way smarter than me and watch more than I do. But yeah, I watched the McDonald's game. And that was my takeaway too. I was like, it's like not the Kentucky guys. I'm talking like the whole country. I was just like, oof. This is. I mean, I feel that way about like Collier and Collier and Wagner seem to be like the guys that are 1 and 2 of some order. What I don't know. There's 1,000 number one recruits every year now.
Yeah,
like, I don't know how every guy is number one in the country, but yeah, I mean, like Isaiah Collier, I was like, he's a decent basketball player. Like this guy should not be the number one recruit in the country.
Right. Like I don't feel like he's going to change an NBA franchise in a year and a half or 2 years. Like that, no chance.
When you stack him up against the number one recruits coming in every single year, you're like, this guy's not.
This isn't Derrick Rose or Anthony Davis. Like it's not quite the same caliber.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Reed Shepherd I love too. I think that's what might be what it is. Well, I freaking love Reed Shepherd.
He was awesome in that tournament. It's kind of like the hero thing where it's like the guy that was kind of the lowest rated recruit of the class actually ends up being really, really good. Is it because he's a white shooting guard? Maybe.
Well, that's the problem. I have to check myself because I'm getting to that age where I'm just like I feel this way about Cooper Flagg, who we can talk about if you want.
I would love to.
Anytime I fall in love with a white guy, I just like immediately go to the mirror and just stare in the mirror and I'm like, are we sure about this, Mark? Like, are we sure? Like you got to be careful. Like, do you actually think he's a great basketball player, or do you just like,
I watched him and Cameron Boozer go head to head, Flagg and Boozer, and I was like, well, Flagg's clearly better. I was like, wait, am I being stubborn for that same reason?
Am I Bob Ryan right now? Just like talking about that's what we have to learn these lessons from all the old Celtics guys who just like went nuts about the 5 white guys. I guess they weren't rolling out 5 white, but they had the 86 Celtics have an alarming amount of white guys as it compares to modern NBA rosters.
I'll give you a quick secret here. On the initial All-American voting we had, all 5 first teamers were white, with Edey, Klingon, Filipowski, and we were like, is this a problem? Like, what's wrong with us here?
Yeah, but that's how I felt about this recruiting class with Kentucky. I was like, Reed Shepherd is freaking awesome. I think I'm in love with that dude.
Yeah, I think he'll play a lot more than the recruiting ranking indicates.
But Cooper Flagg, he's legit.
Yes,
he's absolutely.
We're in on him. The chips are in.
Yeah, like that's not controversial to say. We don't have to worry about like. No. Yeah,
I know that the PMT guys have claimed him as like the next number 1 pick from America that's white, and he might be correct. Hey. He's that good.
I think I don't know, the Boozer. What class is that? They're going to be
2025.
So they're going to be juniors this year.
Yeah,
right.
It's ridiculous. They
so
played
we got
like 16.
Cooper Flagg's going to reclass, right? He's got to reclass.
So. Yeah,
and he's going to Duke.
I think he's already. Did you see he went on a recruiting visit there?
Yeah, he's going to Duke.
I want him to go to Maine though.
That would be so sick. That would be disgusting.
Unbelievable.
That would be disgusting if he went to Maine.
Stay home. Why not?
I wanted Zion to go to Clemson so badly too. Like there's something about like guys staying home that's like the coolest thing ever. And it's easy I say this as a guy that went out of state for school, and you did too. But we weren't the number one recruits in the country.
I wasn't going to change the program if I stayed home.
Exactly. If I could have changed, if
you would have let Indiana their next Final Four, you might have.
Yeah, if I would have known that there was a chance, I wouldn't have. Yeah, staying home for me would have probably been Butler. Actually, I would have gone to Butler, and like Gordon Hayward, he did that. He could have gone to a lot of places, and he went to Butler and played for Brad Stevens.
It's an admirable move.
What else? What else do we need to talk about? Do you think Bob Huggins will? What do you think's next for him? I mean, other than. We know he's still the coach at West Virginia. I mean, other than that, in his mind, in this reality that he's built for himself, he will be coaching.
In his reality, he's in Columbus, not Pittsburgh or whatever that was. It's like, I'm not going to trust that guy if he resigned or not, considering he doesn't know which state he's in.
Do you think he's done? Do you think I threw out, like when all this went down initially, I threw out like a Bob Knight career arc where he's got like the fuck you mindset where he's like,
just go back.
Like there's no world where Bob Knight wanted to go coach Texas Tech except for just to tell Miles Brand to suck his dick, and that's like that's I think that's a direct quote, by the way. Like if anyone's upset with me being too vulgar, I think that's what Bob Knight said at his introductory press conference.
It does seem like these lifers, like a lot of the lifers, it's hard to leave. Like Jim Calhoun didn't he still coach like a D3 team? Larry Brown's on his staff again this year. Yeah. And like that guy's almost 80.
Is he really? He's back on his staff?
I think he's like a special assistant at Washington. It's ridiculous. So if he wants to stick around, he can. I mean, like the New Mexico State coach that like got the entire program canceled in the middle of the season last year has another job in junior college. Like there's another job for any one of these guys. Oh,
there is absolutely another job for Bob Huggins. There's no doubt in my mind of it. Like Chris Beard was hired in 2 seconds. Like Bob Huggins, there are a lot of schools. I would dare to say more than 50% of the schools in Division I college basketball.
I think it's probably more than like 300.
Yeah. There are a lot of schools that would take Bob Huggins tomorrow. It's just a matter of like whether Bob Huggins has that in him to like. Do you think he's gonna like do the media route? Do you see that? Like what?
He seems like he.
What makes the most sense is you close your eyes and it's January 14th of this next college basketball season. Where's Bob Huggins? Is he anywhere? Maybe he's just home.
He might take a year and then coach. That seems like, I know he'll be 70. Like he just won his race to 69. He's 70 now, but I think he would coach again for like 3 to 5 more years, kind of the Pitino route.
I see that as well. Yeah. I think there's a world where he comes back, and I don't know where it is. For some reason, a MAC school feels right.
Oh, you think he would go? I'm trying to think of somebody. I guess Pitino came back in at Iona. Maybe that's what you have to do.
No. I do think he'll get power offers, but like Bob Huggins in the MAC feels right to me. I don't like Bob Huggins. That just hits.
Back in Ohio after he was calling out the Cincinnati kids.
Didn't he play at OU before he transferred to West Virginia? Wasn't he? I think he went to OU originally, which I don't know. Jeff Bowles. I don't know. The coaching carousel.
Bowles could get another bigger job.
The coaching carousel turns in a lot of fascinating ways. Jeff Bowles goes somewhere else, and then.
Man, yeah, you're right. You're at Ohio. I would not have pulled that. Incredible trivia stuff out of you there.
Did he? Where did he coach at? He coached at a school. What school in Ohio did he coach?
Walsh and Akron.
Walsh, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I knew he'd already coached at Akron, but Bob Huggins in the MAC just fits. Like the branding of what the MAC is, it seems to be aligned.
Fair enough.
With what Bob Huggins is putting out there. Anything else before we go?
I wanted to ask really quick. How much do you care about all these Iowa players betting on sports? Because as somebody that a lot of our content does end up skewing a little bit towards gambling. You work for a company that owns a sports book. Like, just don't bet on your own team.
Yeah, it seems pretty easy to not mess up. I feel like this is the tip of the iceberg. I think I feel like this is not the last story we're going to hear of guys betting on their own, because what wasn't the I saw it late before he came in. Aaron Eulis, right?
Transferring to Nebraska, and he's the one like basketball player, because it was the football teams, Iowa State and Iowa both had like a walk-on kicker at Iowa bet the under in the Iowa State game.
Well, that's just smart. Like don't attack the walk-ons. Like I mean, hell, they're just trying to
he's trying to meet out exactly.
there.
Like if you can't get an NIL deal, you might as well.
The walk-ons aren't playing. Like let them do whatever they're gonna do.
But so the Eulis thing came out. He's facing like a lifetime ban. I think he only has 1 or 2 years left of eligibility, but it does feel like it's going to happen. There's going to be more before it becomes less.
Yeah. But the weird thing to me was it was for small amounts, right? Like, didn't I read somewhere like one
QB's average bets were like $7,
like
but you know those were like $7 to win $1,000. Like, I'm sure they were.
That's true. Yeah, and they you can't bet on your own games like that. That'll never fly. That'll never be okay. That'll never be. Even if you're someone who's kind of got the attitude of like, like who. If you're very pro gambling and you're like, this should have, like, all these guys should be able to, because I think that's like a valid viewpoint, honestly, that like I don't see the problem with like an Iowa basketball player betting on Iowa softball, but that's illegal right now per NCAA rules. Like, you can't even do that. So like, even if you're someone who's like, let the kids be kids, let them experience. Like, why can't they? If you miss the NCAA tournament, you should be able to fill out a bracket and gamble. Like, I believe all this, but you got to draw the line of betting on your game. Like, there's no world ever, even 1,000 years, where people will be like, what's wrong with that? That's cool.
It just won't get accepted.
It'll never
avoid
be
your
okay.
own team's games. That's our policy. Hard on the Mark Titus show.
Yeah.
Don't bet on your own teams.
We were the first. This is the first place that you'll see people.
So we declared the Pac-12 dead, and we came out with.
This was fun, man. Thanks for swinging by and talk. I haven't talked college basketball in a long time. I've been for some reason I've been doing a lot of stupid. We did a lot of stupid
Happy to do
NBA
it, man. I told you when
I
I walked in here, this is the fanciest studio that I've.
This is the fanciest?
I think so. We do it from our apartments. That's the 3-Man Weave production is not the level of this microphone's by far the best one I've used. Like, you guys are killing it.
We got to hang a banner in this studio. Jim Root says this is the fanciest studio. Put a banner up in those.
Exactly.
We got like, let me count the pipes that are running through this studio right now, and the influencers on the other side of this door that are making noise at all times. How long have you lived in Chicago?
I've been here for now a little over a year, but I also lived from 2016 to 19, and I did 3 years in Vegas. So part of the betting, gambling stuff that we did was out there.
Do you have any Chicago tips for me?
I asked you before we got live, and you told me to save it. Have you been on the Playpen yet? Have you been out on a boat on the Playpen? That is the area with boats right in front of like Streeterville. So you got the not the Willis Tower, the Hancock Tower's right behind there. That's the one thing. I know you're saying you're getting sick of restaurant recommendations and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sick of. I'm officially just a PSA real quick. Like my inbox is full on recommendations for restaurants from Chicago people. I appreciate it. I greatly appreciate it. I really, really do. I looked the other day and I have like 400 restaurants I have to try in the city, and I'm like,
it might take you a little time to get through that.
Like, people are blowing me up left and right. Like, dude, you got to try this place. I'm like, dude, I believe you. I do. I genuinely believe people when they're like, this is the best pancakes you'll find in the city or whatever.
The one thing I'm going to put my foot down is you got to find yourself a friend that's got a boat, get out on the Playpen. I can't believe the Chicago office guys haven't even introduced you to the concept yet.
There are rumblings, and with Big Cat, it's hard to suss out always when he's being serious and when he's not, and because like the most harebrained, insane thing that comes out of his mouth, he will make a reality, and he will like go buy that and make it happen. And then there are other things where you like take for granted and you're like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to do that. Right. And he's like, no, I was just fucking around. Like, I was just saying that. So I have no idea where he landed, but there have been rumblings that there may eventually be like, I don't know how it's going to work and whether I'm even at liberty to say this, but there might be a Barstool boat at some point.
Yeah.
Like we might get like a company boat.
That makes like, way too much sense to me.
That like we all like, fight over who gets to take it out, and it's going to crash immediately. It is going to sink to the
amount of other boats are going to be like, we want to tie up with those guys, and that's going to turn into a debacle. But
Hank, the first time Hank takes that boat out, he is going to absolutely, there's going to be a boat full, like it's going to be, just like a boat full of women, like, Hank, over here, and he's going to be like, absolutely, and he's going to like floor it over to them and just crash.
I think you maybe hire a driver. That's my recommendation.
But the Playpens, everyone just ties up and just has a good time.
It's the best, man. That's
Dude, I gotta get out there.
The biggest edge of summertime Chicago is the amount of the boat hangs that get done.
Would you believe I've still not made a trip to Lake Michigan? I've lived here for 2 weeks now, and
2 whole weeks? How dare you?
Well, Jim, the beach was. I was. Have you seen the Barbie movie?
I haven't yet. I know.
Well,
sorry, I haven't done the Oppenheimer part either, so I got to hit the double.
Okay, but Ken and Barbie. I mean, I'm not really spoiling anything, but he loves the beach, and like I was watching that, and I was pointing. I was like, that's me. Like I beat like one of the things in this isn't spoiling it, but maybe it is. I don't know. But like it's not really a plot point. In the Barbie movie, it's just like basically like he says he beaches. He doesn't lifeguard. He's not a fisherman. He's not a boater. He's like, I just beach. That's what I do. Is I beach, right? Like that's like the Ken identity. And I was cracking up because that's me. It's like I just go to the fucking beach, and then everyone's like, so you want to like play volleyball here at the beach? And I'm like, no, I want to beach. Like, you want to go surfing? And I'm like, no, dude, I just want to beach.
There are good beaches, man.
Beach, dude. There are
good beaches.
So like that was part of my identity in LA, and then I moved here and I haven't been once. So I gotta fix that. There are good beaches.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Your North Aves, your Oak Streets, your Montroses.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I see a lot of signs for rats. Are rats a problem? I haven't seen a rat yet.
Not really. You haven't walked through the right alley, but they'll be around.
Like I'm taking the trash out and I see the signs in the alleyways are like, don't feed the rats.
They don't really
and I'm like,
bug you here. That's kind of, I haven't had an interaction with a rat. I see them, but I feel like in New York, the reputation is that like they'll bother you.
Yeah.
Here, not so much.
Okay, so I don't have to worry about that.
They're Midwestern rats.
Yeah. I don't have to worry about that. All right. That was something I was concerned about. All right. Well, cool, man. We'll do this again at some point during the season. You have to come by the, the new office. We get that all.
And that can be the new fanciest studio I've
That will be the new
from.
fanciest. Actually, I think my studio, I don't know if it'll be bigger in this room. I don't know. The problem is I'm doing a show with Brandon Walker, and as a bit, Brandon gets nothing. Brandon gets the small. So Brandon and I are doing a show together, and then because we're doing a show together, we are going to share a studio because we're going to do our show out of that studio. But I've hitched my wagon to the one guy that like complains about everything, and I think as like sort of a fuck you to Brandon, the higher ups of Barstool gave us the smallest studio.
Yeah. Maybe Tylor.
They sent us the blueprints of the new studio, and Brandon immediately like sent it to me, and he goes, what do you think of this? And I was like, I don't know, man, it seems pretty cool. It looks like our studio is going to be close to, like some of the cool things, because it's going to be a sick setup. We're going to have like a golf simulator, I've been told. We're going to have a full court basketball court.
I can't believe we're going to have a basketball court. I'm just jealous of that.
So I'm looking at my office. I'm like, yeah. So like I'll do my show. I'll pop out. I'll get some shots up. Maybe hit the golf simulator. Yeah, that's not a bad flow for me. I see the vision. And Brandon's like, we got the smallest studio. That's all I see is that we got the smallest. And he was complaining about that. And I was like, damn it.
Comparison's the thief of joy, Brandon. Come on,
it is.
Just enjoy it.
So we might have a smaller setup, but it'll be just as nice as this. Jim Root, 3-Man Weave. Go subscribe, everybody. If you love college basketball, you should be listening to those guys. Absolutely, they are the best. We'll have to do. I should have got Kai and Matt in here too. Or no,
eventually.
How do I play this now? Like, what's your advice for that? Like,
You're going to have to eventually rank us and start bringing in your favorite one more often than the other two.
Should I do like hire Matt next? Should I just go through like a speed dating almost?
Like a tryout.
Like do a tryout?
Exactly. And then you like, don't tell us who you liked more. Just start inviting that one back.
Okay, I'll do it this way. I'll bring Kai in. I'll bring Matt in. And then I'll bring all three of you in, and then that's when I'll deliver my power rankings.
I love that idea. If four
Straight
people can fit in your tiny studio,
right. Yeah. All right. Thanks, dude.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you to Jim. Chicago guy, I'll have him back on as well. My first shout out, by the way, is Nicole Auerbach, who was the last guest we had on this show, who just announced that she will be doing NBC coverage for college football this year.
That's the Titus. Titus bump.
Yeah. Do you think like this was on her radar before she came on the show, TJ?
It was probably, they probably watched the interview.
Yeah,
and they're like,
that's probably what it was.
We got to get one of these guys on TV.
And my phone just did not ring, but hers did. So that's all right. That's fine. No, Nicole's great. People seem to really enjoy Nicole on the show, and I'm glad they did. And hopefully they enjoy Jim as well, because he's great too. But I love this network of Chicago people I'm building, and I'd love to get them in the fold, and we'll bring Jim back during the season. I feel bad. Like, I don't want to waste Jim's one appearance on this show in August, and he's a good sport. I'm glad he came in and talked college hoops, but we'll get him back on when there's some more meat on the bone and there's some more exciting things to talk about. Shout outs. I want to give a Rutgers one before you do. I want to give the rare This is a rare occasion where I want to give a Rutgers shout out. I want to beat you to the punch, and shout out Carly Lloyd.
Yep.
I want to shout out Carly Lloyd, who is just dragging our women's national soccer team. She's disgusted by what she's seeing, TJ, and I fucking love it because that's deserved. They've sucked. They've sucked.
There are people that are really mad at her for this take too.
Oh no, those people are soft, absolutely soft. This is the thing. Like, if you want to live in a world where like you're treated like athletes, this is part of it. Like if the men's team, if our men's soccer team was this bad, and our men's soccer team has zero expectation, like we're not supposed to actually win the fucking thing. We're just supposed to like not look awful. If our men's team was this bad, it would be a shit show. Like the people, the amount of vitriol that'd be thrown around at how bad these guys are, and fire the coaches and get rid of all. People would be losing their minds. So of course you're going to do that for the women. That's a good thing. This is a good thing. I don't know. I am so pro Carly Lloyd, and I would be so pissed if I was her. And you know, I played such a vital role in putting those stars on the chest above the crest. And then these guys show up and they just like think that like they've won one of those stars. Now some of them have, you know, like Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe. They've certainly contributed to World Cup titles, but I would be disgusted if I was her. I was like, you guys haven't won shit. This team hasn't won shit, you know. And like you build the culture, and then I don't know. The United States women have not been knocked out of the World Cup yet, so there is still a sliver of a hope that they can pull their heads out of their asses and make something of this thing. But what a disgusting, and I think it makes it worse, TJ. I didn't stay up and watch. I'm gonna straight up say it, but I think like the reason people are so fired up was also there seemed to be a lot of people that like stayed up late to watch was it 3 a.m. or 2 a.m.?
I think the game started at 3. Yeah,
the 3 a.m. Eastern kickoff to see a 0-0 tie that they should have lost. Yeah, it's embarrassing, and this is yeah, I don't know. You want to be treated like athletes, and you know you want the equality. This is part of it. This is how it goes. Yeah. Congratulations, you're now treated like men. Just
the concept of not scoring any goals for 90 minutes in any level at any like in any game and in any competition and celebrating after doesn't really sit right with me. I wouldn't be like, yeah, we did nothing for the entire time we were playing. Let's go. It's like even if it was like a high school baseball game and we scored 0 like nonetheless on the world stage. I'm proud of Rutgers icon Carly Lloyd for standing up for the culture that she built in the U.S. women's national team.
Yeah, that was awesome. But it's the Frank Beamer meme, the 0-0 Virginia Tech Wake Forest. He's regulation. Like, he's raising his fist. He's like, hell yeah. That's what it felt like. No, I think it's the only way women's sports are ever going to truly be respected is if you like quit patronizing women athletes. And this is like my frustration. I was trying to talk about it with Brandon, but Brandon shut it down because he's like, I hate all women and all women athletes. And like, you know, so I was like, all right, well I guess we're just not gonna have a conversation about that at all. But why can't you live like it? Why can't you just live in a middle ground where you're like, I like watching women's sports sometimes, and I don't know, you just like treat them like fucking athletes. And if you do that, then eventually there will be, you know, like that's why I don't. It's very strange because like the people that are saying Carly Lloyd went too far, like you're patronizing, you're like coddling these women because you think they like represent like some other like political it's like get that shit out of my face. Like go do that somewhere else. You know, like we're here to win a fucking World Cup. Like we want to win the World Cup. That's it. We want to win the World Cup. Yeah. Let's go win the World Cup.
Also, if anybody can speak on it, it's Carly Lloyd.
It's her. So I'm like, if this was any other scenario with any group of men, they would be getting fucking torched, dude. So like, I have no problem with it. And yeah, if Carly Lloyd wants to do it, like you said, like Carly Lloyd is one of the few just absolute legends of. Carly Lloyd and Mia Hamm, to me, are allowed to say whatever they want, whenever they want about the United States women, and I will always side with them on whatever they're saying, no matter what. Even if they start making personal attacks on the players, I'm like, I don't know, man. It's Carly Lloyd. She's allowed to do it. Yeah. So shout out to her, man, because I do think that's what women's sports in general need. I legitimately think that, like, in a weird way, you need to be able to criticize them if you want to take, not just the United States women's national team, but the WNBA and other women's sport. Like, we should be, when the college basketball season rolls around, women's basketball is going to be huge again this year, I think. And I do want to live in a world where you're, like, able to criticize. Caitlin Clark had a stinker of a game, and instead of being like, yeah, but she's still really, like, if Zach Edey put up that stat line, would we be killing him? Yes, of course. So let's kill Caitlin. Let's kill Caitlin Clark. Let's not kill her, but you know what I'm saying. It's a bad clip to be put out there. Let's kill Caitlin Clark. Anyway, shout out Carly Lloyd. That was awesome. I think that's what. Hopefully, it's a kick in the pants that those ladies need to win this thing. Anything else, TJ? Do you have shout out?
Yeah, we were talking off air just now that you guys were talking in the interview a little bit about college players leaving schools and how they'll be looked at down the road. And I wanted to bring up the that Shirley Donovan tweeted earlier this week that there's rumors of an unhappy camper at their new home in the Pacific Northwest, and that his former school has closed the door behind him.
Who could that be, I wonder?
I think that might be the artist formerly known as New Jersey's point guard, Paul Mulcahy. Which, I don't know. As a fan of the school if that's about him, that's allegedly closed the door behind him, I don't think we're really in the place right now with the depth that we're missing to close the door on anybody. I think that there's rumors that another kid that transferred out might be transferring back in, Oscar Palmquist from Elon back into Rutgers, but so I don't know. I guess so. I guess what I'm saying is the reception of a person that leaves the program is not going to be good.
That's kind of my thought too. But if Paul Mulcahy goes to the NBA and has like an Alex Caruso type career in the NBA,
for the record,
maybe Rutgers will
I would take Paul Mulcahy back at Rutgers this year.
Yeah, as you should. He's a good ball player for you guys.
He's feisty.
He was a feisty little.
I was always in the camp that if he was at Duke, he would be the most well-known and most hated player in the country.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Big Ten.
He's the ultimate. Don't want to love him if he's on your team, hate him if you're playing against him. Guy.
I'll say this: the Purdue and Indiana fans in my life certainly hate him because it feels like Rutgers beats Purdue and IU every single time they play him. And Mulcahy is. There's at least like at one point at every single game that he would play in where he's just like talking insane shit and drawing charges and did you see this video of the bear in China?
Yes. There's bears in a zoo in China that people are alleging are humans in costumes.
Yeah. I don't get this one. You're gonna have to explain because it's a bear. To me, it was a bear. It was always a bear. Like, is the internet split on this, or are people just saying like, "Wow, this is kind of wild"? Like, we're not actually split on it because I when the bear was standing up, I was like, yeah, I guess I could see where it looks like a human, but then, I mean, the way it like sat down was 100% bear. And why would Yeah, I feel like I think the bear is acting more like
getting a rough edit.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's like there's like clips of like a bear just standing there and like waving his arm kind of humanly.
Yeah.
And then that's the clip that's being put out. But once you see like the full action of the bear like standing up, it's like, oh, well, humans have longer legs than that.
I do feel like there's like a cultural deal too in our country where if you put out something like, if you would have said that was like the Oklahoma City Zoo, no one would have believed it. But if you're like, this happened in China or Japan or Korea or something, you're more prone to believe it because you're just like, damn, they're fucking crazy over there. Like, is it? You see,
it's also like
you see.
So I looked into it a little bit. It's like a sun bear is what it's called, and it's got like distinct. Like it kind of looks like he's got like saggy pants on when it stands up. But he's got like no ass. So I think that's what people are seeing, where it's like, that's not what I think a bear looks like, because we think of like a grizzly bear, which is like big and full. Right. This is like a certain type of bear that is kind of like more frail, I guess. I
was just working off of the, like you see a clip from like a Japanese game show, and you just kind of shake your head, and you're like, what What a wild.
Well, there's that,
so, like,
and then there's another guy in Japan that spent 2 million yen on like a dog costume
That's
to look
what I mean.
like a border collie.
There are enough believable. There are enough like actual real stories that come out of Japan or China or wherever that when like something like this. Yeah, it's more believable. Where you're like, yeah, I mean, I guess there is a world where like a zoo worker put on a bear outfit. But then I watched the video. I was like, this is definitely a bear. This is a bear.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing is a bear. So put me down in the bear camp, I guess. Is there anything else? Are there any Barstool?
I just wanted to give a shout out to. We talked about like card memorabilia collecting the other day.
Yeah.
To gamers and card collectors, because Magic the Gathering.
Oh yeah. I don't know it well. Every time I want to say this too. Sorry to derail this real quick, but every time like a nerd topic comes up, and I say I know it a little bit, but I don't know it well, there's always people that think that I'm like trying to downplay. I will gladly say if I know something nerd, like we how many times did we talk about Zelda and I was like, this is the greatest fucking game ever, and I love, like I will talk about whatever, because I got accused of this like when I don't know, I picked Harry Potter on the dog walk draft, and I was like, I don't remember a ton about Harry, and everyone's like, yeah, right, bro, you know everything about. I was like, I don't remember everything, and I don't. This has happened a few times, TJ, so I just want to get that off my chest. That I'm aware of Magic the Gathering. I had a friend that played it a lot in junior high, but I never actually like played myself. But I'm aware of like the card concept and like there are things that So go on. Sorry. Yeah.
So Magic the Gathering, it's a trading card like game similar to Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards. There's a ton of cards in existence, a ton of different cards that are all playable in the game, have different abilities or whatever, build out different decks. They recently did a collab release with Lord of the Rings. So a bunch of the characters and locations from Lord of the Rings were built canonically into the game. So they're usable. So there's like a Gollum card that like you could play, and you buy them in packs and you don't know which ones you get. It's random ones. And they decided as part of promotion for it and like to stay canonically accurate that they had to put the ring into the game.
Whoa. So the Lord of the Rings ring.
One ring card in the entire field of thousands and thousands of released packs. So every other card has like a number of like there's this many in existence, and there's like a lot of them for each card. But they added one ring card because there's only one ring in Lord of the Rings, right? Like you have to like collect the one ring.
Yeah.
So people for the last few months have been buying these packs of cards, hoping that they find the one ring card, because it's not just a gimmick, it's not a promotion, it's like canonically in the game. Like you could like in theory like
this is Willy Wonka. This is a Willy Wonka, but there's
only one in existence, and it says one of one on it. Like it's very, and it was revealed this week that in June a collector, a random guy, not like a professional collector or one of these like box breaks or Darren Revell type guys, a random guy that was looking for it found it. And he was able to privately sell it to Post Malone, who was like the celebrity Magic the Gathering guy.
Wow.
And Post Malone bought it for, the report was $2.6 million.
Holy shit. That's so cool. That's awesome. But how do you find it? Like, how do you...
You go to the store and you buy a pack of Magic the Gathering, like Lord of the Ring cards, and you cross your fingers and hope that you win the lottery.
Like you say that like it's discovering the Titanic, It's like we have a general idea of where to go. It's anywhere in the world. You could have
correct.
So like it could have been in
the local card shop in Chicago. It could have been in China or I don't know where Magic the Gathering is popular overseas.
Wow.
And then it ended up in the hands of Post Malone.
So Post Malone. That's so basically like never play Magic the Gathering with Post Malone, right? Because he's just gonna pull the ring out and like just fucking
he's just gonna annihilate
everybody. Yeah. All right, well, there you go. Is that it? Are there any maybe we could save this for later. Is there any Barstool drama going on that I need to weigh in on? Is there anything missing?
I don't know. I think a lot of the vibes are going to start to shift to the crew that you're around there in Chicago.
Yeah,
I know White Sox Dave blowing his face up was a big topic of discussion this week. I don't know if you've seen him in person.
His face looked horrendous the first time I saw it, but then the second time I saw him, he looks better. But it was the first time I saw him after the Velcro thing. I was doing my best to like I was looking at my feet as I was talking to him because I didn't want.
I've been in that situation. I was at a water park once and I dove into a pool and I tried to do like a handstand and my face hit the ground and I just like sliced the skin off my nose like kind of perfectly the same way. Embarrassing, but I don't know. That's an all-time video. That and Rico Bosco trying to bowl as hard as he could last night and falling and slamming his head against the bowling alley.
I saw that. That was tough. That was tough for Rico.
Yeah.
I want to have
Other
Rico.
than that, nothing crazy.
I want to get Rico on the show. We got to make that happen.
He wants to come on. He's mentioned it a few times.
I know, and that's like, I'm scared.
You two are the two biggest Little League World Series influencers. Maybe
that's a great point.
The country.
That's a great point. We need to. We should. How far should I meet Rico in Williamsport for the?
He's been begging to go, begging Hank, please buy me ticket or send me to Williamsport.
My concern with Rico in the Little League World Series is that because I know Rico is big into Little League baseball. I got into it because I came about it kind of naturally. Like the guys that I went to high school with played in it. Like the Lance Lynn, shout out Lance Lynn, by the way, who must hate me, TJ. This guy Lance Lynn, who I went to high school with, and like I think I've told this story on the show before. Like we used to be best friends because we would play Grand Theft Auto together, and he taught me how to kill prostitutes on Grand. He used to come over. My parents wouldn't let me play that game, but Lance would like put it in his. You know, he'd sleep over at my place, and he'd bring the game over, and you know he'd be like, "Guys, watch this," and he'd pull out Grand Theft Auto, and I'd be like, "Holy shit!" And they'd be like, "Yeah." So what you do is you pay them. And then, you know, the car will rock a little bit. And then once they get out, just kill them and take the money back. And I'm like, what? It's genius. But I love Lance to death. But, like, you know, you get older and you lose touch with people. And you know, I've just kind of lost touch with him. And I've been living in L.A. He's been playing for the White Sox. And then I move to Chicago, TJ. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to slow play this. But, like, eventually I'm going to reach out to Lance. And we're going to cross paths. And we're going to be best friends again. And we're going to play Grand Theft Auto at my house. This is all going to happen. What happens? This man immediately gets traded to Los Angeles, of all places, TJ. Right where I came from. I was there. I was just there. Oh, so, disgusting. He pissed me off. But Lance and Tucker Barnhart and like all these guys like were like the guys I grew up with in Brownsburg when we were younger. All those dudes played. We sent 2 teams to the Little League World Series, and then there was one team in the middle that almost made it. They were like 1 or 2 games away from making it. So we almost had 3 teams in a row. So I grew up like when I was that age, I was watching all my friends, all these guys I would go to school with playing in the Little League World Series. That's kind of how I fell in love with it, and then I just started watching it every year because I was like, this is kind of fun, and then you start to like it because just like anything could happen in these games, and like literally anything can happen, and the ball just gets thrown all over the field, and I'm like, this is chaos, this is so freaking fun. So anyway, I tell that story to say I was trying to bond about the Little League World Series with Rico because I knew he's the only other human being on planet Earth other than my father who I know is like a quote Little League World Series fan. So I brought it up to him, and I'm worried that his is more of a crusade than a you know what I mean? Like I have like a very my approach to the Little League World Series is like very pure, where I'm like, I love to see, you know, these kids their last gasp of youth, and it's like this is the last purity of sport that we have that's on ESPN and has commercial breaks. But this is the last like bastion of purity in sports, is like these 12-year-olds playing baseball, and that's what I romanticize about the Little League World Series, right, Rico? And he's like, let me tell you something about the guy who runs did you know the guy who runs the fucking Little League World Series? Have I told you about this scumbag? This fucking scumbag. So listen to this. And I'm like,
save it for the pod.
No. So I'll save it for the pod, but that's my fear, TJ, is that like we might not be aligned on how we view it, but I do know we both watch it. So I'm gonna get Rico on it. Maybe we'll do a Little League World Series.
He's very publicly on a mission to expose, I guess, the commissioner of umpires. Because they don't pay the umps, even though they have like a $60 million TV deal, so then they don't have good umps. That's his main.
All right. Well, I'll talk to him about it, but
yes.
Yeah, that's all right. That's the show. Thanks to Jim Root. Thanks to everybody watching, listening. Subscribe. We're getting ready, dude. It's August. The new office is going to be launching before long. The show with Brandon's going to be launching before long. But yeah, I've been having fun in Chicago. Everything's going well, and I appreciate everybody listening and following along, because the feedback's been great since I've gotten to Chicago, and I don't know. This isn't really a show that. This isn't a show that I interact with fans that much, I guess. This is not like this isn't a pardon my take where I'm going to shout out the AWLs and we're going to give, the only reason I say that is just to say that, like, I feel like sometimes I forget to do that, and I forget that there are other people on the other end of this, and it's not just me talking to people. So I am very appreciative of everybody who watches along and listens and is spreading the good word, and I appreciate you. I do. I don't do as good of a job as I should of saying that every so often, but I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next week.